For today's activity, we're going to create a parachute. The items you will need is a small toy, possibly a ruler, scissors to cut string, and we're going to make 3 parachutes today. You can make one or all 3 or make your own. One parachute, we're going to be using these materials plus possibly a handkerchief, a cloth handkerchief, or a bandana. So that's one of our parachutes. Another one, we're going to use something that most people have around their house, which is a grocery sack. Try to make sure there's no holes or very few holes in the bottom of the sack. And the third one we're going to use coffee filters. We'll use 2 of them. And we'll need a little bit of tape for reinforcement on this parachute. So let's make the first parachute. You will need 2 yards of string. A yard is 3 feet each. So if I measure 3 feet cut, 3 feet cut, I'll have 2 yards of my string. So I'll take the end of the string, place it on my ruler. 1, 2, 3, and then I'll cut. So that's 1 yard of string. We'll need 2 of those. The first parachute we'll make is through our garbage sack. I'm going to take one of my strings and I'm going to place it inside of one of the handles of my bag, and I'm going to meet its end together and then pull so that the center is now sitting on the bag. And I'm going to tie a little knot here. Just have to tie it once. I'm going to do the same thing with the other string. I'm going to place it inside of the other loop. I'm going to meet the end. Pull so the center is now on that loop of the grocery sack, and then I'm going to tie it one time. Now I'm going to tie these strings to our little guy. So I'm going to place the string around him a couple of times. And tie. A knot. So one string is now connected to our guy and the loop of the bag. Now I want to put these 2 together, and I'm going to tie another knot around our army guy here. Now, what you can do is either you can pull it all together and throw the whole thing up in the air, or you can hold the bag at the end and drop it from a high surface, like you walked up the stairs to a 2nd floor, and then you could drop it and then see what happens to your parachute. the next parachute we're going to create, we'll be using either a bandana or a handkerchief, a cloth handkerchief. And again, you'll need 2 pieces of string of either 3 feet apiece or 1 yard apiece. So, but what we're going to do in our string this time is we're going to match them up at the end and find the center of both of them. So I'm going to do the same thing with this one. Find both ends, make sure they're even, pull, and we're going to tie these to your toy. So I'm going to put it around my T-Rex here, and I'm going to make a knot. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the other string. One I did above his hands, the other one I'm going to be below. Now, your bandana is a square. So when you open it up all the way, you're going to have 4 corners because you have a square. So we're going to take each one of these corners and we're going to tie an end of a string to it. So I'm just going to take a corner and I'll be tying a small knot at the end of the first corner of my square bandana. Then I'm going to look at my toy and find out where the next string should be. That's the one that went here. So I've got 1 here. I should have 3 left. So I'm going to take this one beside the other one and I'm going to tie it to the next corner. Do this on all 4 corners. After you have your toy tied with all 4 corners of your bandana, you're going to take the top of the bandana and drop it from a really tall area, like a 2nd story, from a porch or from the top of the stairs, or you can bunch it up really tight and throw it up and see how far it'll go. On the bandana parachute, we found the toy was too light, so we either had to tape something a little heavier to it or use a different toy. Also, be careful of roofs, cars, and dogs. On the next parachute, we're going to use 2 coffee filters out of paper, 2 pieces of string, approximately 3 feet apiece or 1 yard apiece, tape, a light toy since we're working with paper, and I forgot to mention that it would be nice if you had a hole puncher. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at our coffee filter, flatten it out some, and we're going to find a square inside of this circle. And you can mark it or you can just eye it. And on those areas where I see a square, I'm going to place a piece of tape. Now, it's not going to be very long. Okay, not very long at all. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to tape and fold over the tape, and that's going to give us a reinforcement since we're using string and we're throwing it. Paper has potential to tear, but if there's tape here, it might last a little bit longer. And now what we're going to do on those taped areas is we're going to hole punch a hole there, trying to stay on the tape, but inside of the paper. Now, just like we did the bandana, what we're going to do is we're going to take the string and place it on our toy first. So we'll have 4 pieces of string to tie inside of our chute. So I'm going to make sure the string is even first. Pull it to get a center. And then I'm going to tie one side onto the dog and make a knot. And then I'm going to tie the other string to the other side of the dog. Now that I have the dog in the 2 strings, which will equal 4 separate strings, I'm going to tie each one inside of one of these holes, trying to keep it even. So this will be on the first hole, the second hole, the third hole, and the fourth hole onto the chute. So I'm going to do the first one. I'm going to carefully go through the hole because remember we're dealing with paper here. And I'm going to carefully tie a loose knot. 1, 2. Now I'm going to study the string and see which one should go on next. And I think the next string is going to go right beside it in this hole. Do all 4. Once you have all 4 strings tied onto your paper chute, it's time to try it out. You can get on a trampoline, on the top of the stairs, on a porch, and drop it and see what happens. I hope you enjoyed creating parachutes today, finding out the difference in materials and weight, and contemplating the fact that sometimes one toy fell quicker than another. And why does a toy take longer to meet the ground with a chute than without a chute? And if you made all 3 chutes, which stayed in the air the longest and why? Can you make a parachute using a different material besides a bandana, coffee filters, or grocery bag? I can't wait to see. Happy learning!